What's up, y'all, and welcome back to the Us vs. Them YouTube channel. I'm your host, Vince, and we're going to break down the next fight for the upcoming fight night that we have for the UFC Qatar event this weekend. We have Jack Hermansson versus Myktybek Orolbai. Right now, Hermansson is sitting at a plus 205 underdog, and Orolbai is sitting at about a minus 260 favorite. Before I get into this crazy-ass breakdown, if I can just remind you guys, hit the like video for this, subscribe to the channel, all that shit. Really appreciate you guys. It's the feedback that we're looking for. But yeah, fuck it. Let's get into this fucking breakdown. Listen, it's impossible to talk about this fight without talking about the obvious change in weight classes for these dudes. Orolbai is sitting at a 3-1 record in the UFC right now, and you know, one or two of those bouts is at lightweight. One of them was a catchweight bout at like 160 or 165, and then if you go back to his debut in the UFC, he fought that at middleweight or at welterweight, which is where this fight is this weekend, at the 170-pound weight class. When you go through his Tapology, you'll see that he kind of, before he got in the UFC, he was kind of splitting his time between 155 and 170. So that's kind of common for Orolbai, I guess. But when you look back at some of his performances at welterweight, you'll see some really impressive performances. It seems like a weight class that he fits in really nicely to, and if you look at some of his performances at 155, for instance, you'll start to see like some of the cardio issues that he has, you know, especially later in the fight, and I think the weight cut has a big a factor to do with that for sure. So we got Orolbai kind of moving up from the 155-pound weight class, and then you got Jack Hermansson on the other side who's moving down from the 185-pound weight class. Hermansson has spent his entire career fighting at the middleweight division, the 185-pound division, and then following his most recent KO loss to Gregory Rodriguez, he's decided that, you know what, maybe it's time to drop down to 170 and try my hand there. Jack Hermansson's 37 years old right now, so I think he's probably feeling the pressure of knowing that he's in the twilight of his career, and if he wants to make a good run at a title in the UFC, now's the time. I mean, he cannot wait any longer. So, you know, getting knocked out by a guy like Gregory Rodriguez, who obviously has a size advantage over Jack Hermansson, maybe it was an indication for Hermansson that says, you know what, if I've been thinking about 170 before, now's the time to go. And honestly, it's just a big X factor about this fight that is just really, really difficult to predict. It's really impossible for me or any other YouTube MMA channel to predict how Hermansson's body is going to respond to the weight cut. Is he going to do it intelligently? Does he have enough fat on his body? Does his frame let him get down there in a safe way? These are all things that obviously I can't predict. But the one thing that I can say for sure is Hermansson has looked like he has a pretty good energy level for this point in the week. You know, because I have watched some of his interviews recently, and he looks like his energy levels are at a pretty high level for at this point in the week, where the weight cut, we're definitely getting into the weight cut part. He's probably sitting at 10, 12 pounds over, you know, at that 24-hour mark, and that's starting to get the sucky part of the weight cut, but he's still looking pretty great. So I don't know how he's going to respond to getting down to 170. Another important thing to note is both these guys tend to lean on their grappling skills to win fights. You know, we've seen Myktybek Orolbai do this time and time again, and Hermansson's grappling is pretty underrated. It's something that doesn't really get talked about when you talk about a guy like Jack Hermansson. We talk a lot about his takedowns and his control on top and things like that, and he also has really good striking. I think he's really well-rounded, so you don't really talk about a specific part of his game that really kind of shines or stands out, but his grappling is really good, and it's something that he does tend to lean on more so than his striking to get it done. So you have two guys that lean on their grappling and two guys who are changing weight classes. So when you see all this movement and their frames and shit like that, that does play a huge factor into their grappling as well. And it's also another thing that makes it really, really tricky to predict this fight, because I have no idea how Orolbai is going to be able to respond to a bigger frame like Jack Hermansson. And I don't know if Jack Hermansson is going to come in maybe with a size advantage, and that might help him implement some of this grappling that we haven't been able to see him showcase against the bigger frames at middleweight. The reality is, I think Jack Hermansson's best round in this fight is probably going to be in round one. We've seen as the fight goes on, Orolbai's pressure and pace really start to take over, and he really starts to find some success in his wrestling once he's able to wear on his opponents and make them tired. And you know, eventually he's able to find a finish. I think that Hermansson is going to be able to defend the takedowns in round one because he's going to be fresh, obviously. He's also going to enjoy the advantage of being the bigger fighter in round one. Because of the weight cut, that's where the weight cut is going to, that part of the work is going to shine for sure, because he's going to have the size advantage. But the weight cut might also take something away from the cardio. So as we get later into the fight, we could start to see the tide start to shift a little bit. All that pressure is going to start to pay off for Orolbai, and I think that's where he's going to start to find that wrestling success. And as this fight goes on, I think that pressure is going to wear on him, and eventually Orolbai is going to get the finish. So for my official prediction, give me Myktybek Orolbai by submission. Right now, that prop is sitting at plus 550. And I think there's really, really good value in that one. This is probably my second favorite prop of the entire card, to be honest with you. I have a lot of props that I really, really like. And usually when I say that we have pretty good success. So I love this prop. I love that 550 value. So I definitely see us finding a way to incorporate this into our parlays this weekend. That's all I got for you guys in this breakdown. Stop by for my next breakdown where I'm going to get into Waldo Cortez Acosta versus Shamil the Blob Gaziev. That fight is, I don't know, that fight could fucking suck. But I feel really confident about my prediction on that. So stop by for that one. If you guys agree or disagree or whatever with any of my predictions, let me know in the comments. And that's all I got for you guys. So I'm the fuck out of here.